Super excited to have Sunil back at TechTO. Hey, Sunil.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
Awesome. How are you doing?
Good. I'm good. It was a big day. We just wrapped up mentor progress review at Founder Institute. So there are 45 budding young, or actually I would say average age 38 years old. So I shouldn't just say young, but people younger than me, CEOs that are hitting the streets in about 4 weeks, the streets of Toronto with new tech companies. So it's exciting. That was just about 30 minutes ago. And now we're all here in this event.
Unbelievable. And how often do you do that? Is that something that you guys are doing all the time?
Yeah, it's incredible. We've done it 16 times here in Toronto over the last 6 years. So this is the 16th cohort. When this class graduates, which will be in about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, that'll be, let's say, 40 new startups. And when you cumulatively, there's now going to be about 250 startup companies, brand new companies that have been created out of this program. It's quite exceptional. Like I'm a volunteer there. I don't get paid any salary. We don't have any staff. We don't have any office space. It's a global program, and it's just creating a lot of really exceptional startups and converting talented and ambitious people into entrepreneurs, but most importantly, with viable companies that seem to be validated by mentors and by executives and experienced people that kind of should know what's what in the tech world.
Unbelievable. Congratulations. And tonight, I'm excited to talk about my absolute favorite topic, which is why now is a great time to be an entrepreneur. For all those companies, how they're growing as well. So tell me, all these people that are joining, you look at entrepreneurship across all sorts of different places, but at the very beginning at Founder Institute, what does a new entrepreneur look like today?
Yeah, so they look like anybody. I mean, they're people that are either driven by passion or by desire, and being a tech founder today is it's become a calling. A lot of people feel that that's a great place to be, but at the same time, I think people like you and I believe that not everybody should go down this path. It's a very difficult, challenging path that is it's highly unlikely that you'll end up succeeding, at least to the level of success that you envision when you start. And the opportunity cost of this, in terms of your own life, of what you could be doing, when you look around at the classmates that you went to school with, and Jason, you look like a guy that went to a great university. I'm sure that the people you graduated with are onto big and incredible things. And you kind of want to be one of those people. When you follow this entrepreneur path, very often, unfortunately, it doesn't lead there. And there's a lot of, life consequences that come with that. So the trick is to really, do something that's worth doing, and only for as long as it's worth doing as well.
Right. Well, thanks for the shout out to my colleagues at the University of New Brunswick in Fredericton, who are off to great big things.
I lived in Moncton as a child, so that's funny that I just called you as a.
So look, it's interesting. We talked a little bit earlier around credentialing of an entrepreneur versus indexing according to their peers, and I thought you came out at a very different approach, which was it's all about making trade-offs in your life, which I thought was very interesting, and managing risk. So let's say you deal with that. You get through the opportunity and the excitement of doing it. Where do you start? What's the first thing that you do?
Well, my favorite starting place is in a program that we actually we acquired this at Techstars. I should start by saying I do have a job. It's running the Techstars Accelerator here in Toronto. And Techstars has been around for about 12 years, based in Boulder, Colorado. And I think about 6 or 7 years ago, they acquired an internationally based platform for entrepreneurs to just kind of do creative things. It's called Startup Weekend. And it's essentially a hackathon. It's 54 hours of an interesting, cool experience for people to do something very creative, to join other like-minded, ambitious people, and make a startup over the course of a weekend, and see how far you can take the startup and pitch at the end of the weekend in front of judges, people like yourself, and see if that was basically, was that a good experience? And what really happens is Monday morning comes around, and you have to go back to work. And for many people, that becomes a very, uninspiring realization that you got to go back to your day job, and it's not, life isn't about that job for everybody. Right. Although, as I said earlier, I think it should be for many people. And well, not fully the sole source in life. I think, as you know, there's other aspects of life, but it's pretty important, what we do for work. And then what I think is the outcome of that, and leads to a question of, well, now what? What do we do now? It's Monday. Right. Have this great experience. Kind of met some people that you could define as co-founders, people that you got along well with, and you built something, and an app was launched, or a website, or some problem was validated with market
right.
research and customer signups, walking up and down Queen Street or whatever you were doing. And so for that, I think at that point, my suggestion is do something even harder. And Founder Institute is one example of something you can do. That's now we're getting serious. It's 13 weeks. It's very structured. There's a lot of curriculum. And if you can get to that, then I think you're at the point where you should be serious about quitting your day job, about getting really serious about this company, because it does show signs of life, and then get into something next. And so for me, that can be Techstars, where I'm trying to find entrepreneurs that have some signs of traction, and also great people, people that are, have the tenacity to do what it's going to take.
Got it. The ideal path is Startup Weekend, Founder Institute, Techstars, IPO.
Exactly. Your fund will invest. You and Alex will put in money, and then IPO combination. And
now it's interesting because it's very structured hearing it from you, which is great. And you've put together all these programs to help people get started and to grow. Sometimes entrepreneurs say, I wish I'm comfortable with the risk. I'm ready to take on the challenge, but I don't have an idea. What do you say to people who say, I don't have an idea?
Well, the good news is a lot of people have ideas, but they don't have the ability to execute and deliver on those ideas. So what they really need is other people. And so there's a real benefit to getting a sense of who out there do you fundamentally get along with, who you can complement, and who whose idea is viable and big enough for you to dedicate all your precious time to. And so basically what we're talking about is co-founders, right? So that's one of the hardest things to do. So when you do these early stage programs, whether it's Startup Weekend or even Founder Institute, there's no co-founder required. But when you get into something where private investors are investing and it's getting real, generally you need a team. And so the team is basically it's all around us. TechTO is filled with people who I would say would be fantastic co-founders or early in hires for different companies. The trick is making that match, and it's an art more than it is a science.
For sure. Actually, we have a couple comments on that in the chat. I'm going to pull up a couple of them. The first actually goes back to the idea part. Nicole says, what about testing it in the market with clients? So how do you, through these programs, get real ideas in front of real possible customers to make sure that's the right thing before you've confirmed the team, before you've confirmed funding and all of that?
Yeah. So I think that actually comes down to the program you're in. They don't all force that upon you. A lot of programs, life is pretty good in Canada. This is the best country in the world in which to live. And sometimes we get a little soft and complacent, and there's a lot of supporters and cheerleaders that surround us. And they're basically just kind of, saying, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. You should do that. But there's no real test to it. So at FI and at some other programs, and EF is a great example. I'm so excited that Rachel is here to launching EF here, Entrepreneur First, just an incredible global program. Those programs are pretty serious. You have to validate. You have to show customer interviews. And if you're not, you're challenged with an exceptionally hard assignment. You got 48 hours, like a challenge assignment, to go get 250 customer interviews any way you can, online or in person. Document, we'll write them up in a PDF and submit them to us for review with email addresses and everything for spot checking. So that really pushes people to do hard things. And I think that's really what you need to be pushed for in order to be successful.
Well, because that's not going to be the only hard thing that you do in building the company. So I love that you're pushing it early. I thought that's a great response. And then, of course, once you've tested it, you've got your 250 pieces of feedback. The team is coming together. You talked about getting that all co-founders confirmed for investors. Aldo has a great question here, which is, let's do Aldo, maybe come from Marcin before. How do you find investors? You've started this idea, you've gone through the programs, you've got some excitement. Where does seed capital come from?
Yeah, so to some extent, that becomes our job to bring investors to you. So at Techstars, we culminate with a demo day, which is an investor-focused event right now. And the expectation from the 10 from the 10 companies in Techstars is that there's going to be investors that are going to want to hear their pitch and get to take meetings and whatnot. So we're already starting with that. Elite programs like Entrepreneur First or Y Combinator, Techstars, I think even Founder Institute have a brand value that investors are aware of. And so investors actually are looking for these companies coming from these programs because they send very positive signals to the ecosystem. And in a way, it's a way to separate yourself from the noise. And quite frankly, there are a tremendous number of startups. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the number of companies out there. So it becomes a question of, well, how do you, separate yourself from others? And it's like, it's similar to going to a great university like University of New Brunswick. When you go there, it's obvious you're going to end up running,
opportunities are just, the world is your oyster. And so I thought what's interesting is it is a signal, you're right, because of some of the past successes that you've had. And so I'm wondering, you've seen a lot of startups in Toronto grow. You've seen them enter maybe a startup weekend or an FI, and then of course raise and grow and scale and hire a lot of us. Could you talk about one of your favorite sort of transformation stories of someone that you saw early and where they ended up?
Okay, so sure. There's a great company in Toronto called Cinchi, which is a software company that focuses on the fintech market, and it's a company with two highly intelligent but relatively off the radar founders, technical co-founders, which is often a differentiator. If at least one founder is a true full stack developer, technical co-founder, that's great. In this case, you had two. But, they were relatively introverted, quiet founders that you kind of they didn't try to create a lot of buzz for themselves. So when we ended up meeting them, kind of got a real sense of what the power of their software. And I think that the light that Techstars kind of put onto this team at that stage is what led to attention from other people that are industry experts, that have, domain expertise and investment backgrounds. And so, we got to that. We got to a recent Series A. So the company is Cinchi. That's one local example. But I'll say another type of example that I'm maybe even more excited by takes advantage of what the biggest opportunity and component of what Canadian life is, which is we're really at the foundation. We're now a country of immigrants, and there are incredible entrepreneurs from all around the world. And Canada has an ability to attract and essentially outcompete other countries that, quite frankly, are not doing as good a job as we are in all aspects of society. We don't have to look far to see the best example of that. And we don't have to look back to see, to go too far back to see a great example, because Kanchal himself from Remitter is an immigrant to Canada from India. He's built a kick-ass remittance company. He came here using the startup visa program, which is, a fast track way to immigrate entire teams of founders. And so for me, that's an incredible investment thesis where you can find tech companies from anywhere in the world, including from emerging markets, from West Africa, South Asia, South America. And by virtue of immigration and corporate flip, we're making that company Canadian. And we're kind of creating a dual headquartered company where there's a talent base and a market in another part of the world, but a headquarter in a very stable first world city like Toronto. So I get excited by that. We're doing quite a bit of that at Techstars. We have companies right now here from Warsaw, Poland, from Istanbul, Turkey, and from Lagos, Nigeria. And that's just right now. And in all cases, we've already flipped those companies to be Canadian headquartered companies, just waiting for a little break in this pandemic to get the founders here. And we expect them to stay and thrive here, but focusing on huge international markets, but as a newly minted Canadian company.
Amazing. Crazy story. And I think you've done an entire career of helping build the Canadian ecosystem, bringing more founders, more entrepreneurship here. So fantastic. It's my hope that everyone watching today, they're thinking in the back of their mind now, yes, I was coming to get a job, but also maybe I should also be thinking about starting my own job. It's my favorite. I love it. For those that don't have the opportunity right now, whether they've considered it and it wasn't the right risk profile for them, or they have other immediate needs. They want to join a scaling company. They want to find a role. They're not ready to take the entrepreneurship leap just now. What are some of the recommendations you have to get started with, a role in an amazing scaling company, or position yourself well to take the leap in the near future?
Well, if I was in that position, I would actually take the same approach that I was suggesting investors take, which is to track companies that have a high velocity of growth. And very often those companies are coming out of elite programs that signal well, because those companies are on the cusp of raising capital. They've been validated by a lot of mentors and a lot of, people that should really know. There's media stories in them. Yeah. Join those companies early, because can you imagine if you're employee number 8 or number 15 at a company that one day looks a little bit or a lot like Shopify? That would be a very exciting outcome for you, not just in terms of financial outcome, but what a ride it would be like to grow and be part of something at such an early stage. I mean, you yourself, let's just talk about you, Jason. You've had that experience yourself, from what I understand, with Wealthsimple, which is one of the top companies that exists in the Canadian tech ecosystem, and you were there like basically from the beginning. And I'm sure that experience has kind of been one of the most positive experiences of your life. I'm speaking for you here, I'm assuming.
This is great. And you can do my interview later. This is fantastic.
And then again, all roads lead to TechTO. So here you are. I get to talk to you here on a hop-in call.
Fantastic. Well, look, so this was great. I wonder, you've mentioned a lot of great resources in terms of programs for people to check out. Are there other resources that, maybe there's like authors or books or blogs that you suggest people to check out if they just want to keep tabs on this journey and keep it in the back of their mind?
Well, we have our own little press division. I should plug it. So we have venture deals and do more faster, sell more faster. To be honest, I'm not someone known to read a lot of books. I wish I did, and I plan to, but it's just hasn't been happening. I get all my information on all these social channels that I just follow. So, I just, the things that I'm following on LinkedIn or on, Facebook, Twitter, generally relate to this kind of work life that I have going on. And that's where I absorb content, whether it's TechCrunch or Crunchbase. I try to focus on international content versus Canadian content. I mean, our country, relatively speaking, is very small, and the world is out there and it's accessible. And now I think it was Kanchan that just said, now in this online environment, it's exciting. You can interact with essentially anyone you want. And you can consume the content from other markets and get involved with companies. A lot of companies want to open up their offices here in Canada. I get these emails and these requests all the time that, hey, we heard about you, or you're the guy we should talk to. We want to set up an office, and can you introduce us to a lawyer, to a real estate spot, like a WeWork, and help us hire some people. So joining these global companies when they land here is that's a big opportunity. You could be kind of like the country lead for a company that maybe we're not even too familiar with, but they're a big deal in Central America or in Eastern Europe or somewhere else.
Well, look, Sunil, thanks for your time. I know that pre-pandemic, your floor at the WeWork was the hottest place for Toronto technology in the whole city, and looking forward for that reopening and us getting to hang out together again soon.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sunil.